Yo, what up, all junglists? It's Fanu here in the lab. I wanted to talk about the recent Source Direct remix that I did. Let me show you. So, this is the one. I remixed Stars by Source Direct and was happy to have the record out on Odysee. So, I just wanted to do a quick walkthrough of the song and the project and talk about some of the sample choices and aesthetics and the production in general. I won't play the whole song here, and I won't play the original either. You can find the original on YouTube, for example, and obviously my remix is out there on Odysee Bandcamp, and it's there, so I will not play the whole thing here. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of the choices here. So let's do this. So obviously, I wanted to use I wanted to keep fairly old sounding, but like give it my own modern twist. So a lot of the sounds that I use are very old school. Like, I did think that I might just want to do like something very modern or do my own remix that's fairly close to the original. So if we, for example, if we play the original, the Amen here, and then if we play my Amen, let me play here. So it's similar. I did use the Amen, the original Amen from the 7-inch, and I processed that myself. I did get the one that it was used here, but I gotta do my own thing. So just let's see the beginning of the song. To me, it's always important that I can keep a hi-hat in the intro just for mixing, because to me it's important as a DJ. So the intro break I did myself. Let me go to my audio editor, and I'm gonna put the download of this break on my Patreon so you can grab it there. This is the this is sort of the source. It's weather report break that I've sampled through my Akai, and I took this and I chopped it on Bitwig. So let's see here. I created a jungler rhythm. And it's very jungle in that I've pitched the break up, so we have a lot of room for the sub bass. So let's take a look at this analyzer here. Obviously the break isn't hitting very low. It's very high. The original is lower. I've used this in a song before, in a hip hop song, but I played it at a lower pitch. And it's great for that. So it can be pretty slamming and kind of hard hitting. But for this one, I wanted to pitch it up to kind of give it a better energy. One thought about using break beats and their pitch is like, sometimes you may want to try better pitch or like other, let me see here. Let me tweak this. So here on Bitwig, I'm controlling the pitch of the break. So it's controlling the pitch of all the hits because that's how I've configured it. So once again, I've chopped all the hits in this drum break. That's important to me. But my point is, when you're using breakbeats, try different pitches, because, for example, if I pitched it down here, you see that the energy is much different. It does work, but it works better at a higher pitch. So and this especially often leaves a lot of room for the sub bass. And in old jungle, what often happens is the breaks don't actually have a lot of low weight, so you have a lot of room for the sub, which also happens in the original song here. Like the aiming is very light. So in the intro especially, I wanted to make that happen. So a quick thought and tip about the bass. Even if you look at the MIDI notes here in the bass, I'm starting with a more sparse bass. That's not very, it's not very intense. So once I proceed further in the song, the bass gets more intense and more active, so to say. So this is a production tip. Don't play all your cards at once. When you start with a bass, sometimes it makes sense to do like a really sparse, loose bass like I'm doing here. So when you introduce a bass line that starts playing more notes and it's less sparse, it kind of helps with the energy. So I'm using this, one of the samples that I got. Let's see. I'm using the pad. It's this is a sample. The thing is, the original doesn't even have that many samples, so in that sense it was a bit of a tricky one, like what do you want to use? And obviously I wanted to use this pad, so that plays through the intro. I often like these sort of low layers for texture. This I definitely picked up from like mid-90s drum and bass, because that's when I started getting into jungle and drum and bass. Like good looking records, they always had this kind of smooth, low, kind of thick pads. I think jungle was sampling a lot of deep house back then, and at least sort of emulating similar sounds. So I only really realized that later on. My friend kind of pointed it out that jungle was taking sounds from deep house, and this sort of like smooth pad work was nice. So pad has like a more intense part where it plays higher notes. And I felt that was good for sort of signify where like a 16 bars end here. And then it gets back to the like the lower notes, so it kind of makes you feel like, okay, something's about to happen. So instead of like steady looping like doo, I wanted to use this part that sort of kind of increases the energy at the end of 16 bars. So let's see. So you see the bass is getting more intense. Like I said, the first 16 bars of bass is like really sparse, and then it kind of picks up. I like the technique of having like a sort of kind of chilled drum break, but then you have the bass starts doing a thing in the background. So you kind of get a sense of like, okay, something's happening, it's kind of evolving. And then we get to the amen, and the energy once again improves, like you just heard. Like, let me play it from here. So yeah, this amen is sampled from my 7-inch. I just did a video on my Patreon about using this break. I started this new Patreon series called Breakbeat of the Month, where I will be chopping up a drum loop and just talk about using it and discuss various things relating to how it sounds and how you can use it. So I just did the amen episode. It's on my Patreon page, so check it out. So anyways, I wanted to do my own amen instead of using the source director amen, which would have been kind of cool, but so I have a background where you kind of have to sample your own things and process that yourself. I think it's a really big part of me and my musical backbone, like going to the source and processing that. Like, I don't want to start a war about sampling whoever, but like, it doesn't sit right with me that producers, like drum and bass producers, sample drum and bass producers. That's, in my book, that's kind of, it's a bit odd. What do you think? Leave a comment and let me know. But like, I could never go and sample Photech, anyone like Dillinger. I do hear people use Photech breaks now, Dillinger breaks, and I can't do that. I just got to do my own thing. So that's why I wanted to use my own amen here. So about the amen processing, let's see the EQ here. It looks kind of wild, but let's see. On and off from here. So yeah, it's definitely dusty. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling up this sort of close to 1K to get the body up, then just a basic lazy high shelf. And check this out. A lot of this nodes here and this high shelf, these are pulling up a lot of the high energy. Hear how much this actually does? So it kind of modernizes the amen, so to say. Like, it's kind of faithful to the original vibe. So I'm not doing anything crazy. Like, I'm not making it freaking heavy. I'm not making it super punchy or aggressive. I'm kind of over that, to be honest. Like, I've heard so many songs where the amen is just fucking like, it wants to be like really crazy and aggressive. I think we're kind of, I know a lot of people will hate me for this, but I'm kind of over that, like the super choppy, super aggressive, distorted amen. Sorry guys, it doesn't impress me. I don't know. I'll move on. I'm gonna piss somebody off, but like, I just mostly wanted to make the amen kind of really nice and bright. Also, one thing I realized that the earlier parts of this video, this Pultec EQ was off because of some technicality. So now it's on. It's adding a little bit of lows. This is one of my most used EQs when it comes to boosting the lows of a break. Let me on and off here. Let's listen. So when I played this break earlier in the video, if you thought the amen is a little thin, yeah, that's the reason, because this Pultec EQ wasn't on. Because it's one of these non-dongle needing UAD plugins, and it doesn't activate unless you open this UA Connect software. So if I could say one thing to Universal Audio, I would say that this is massively annoying. Like, please allow the plugin to activate without me having to open this piece of software before my DAW. So that's why the amen was sounding a little light before, because this Pultec wasn't on. So a lot of the other stuff is kind of not so, it's nerdy. I'm shaving off some of the side signal brightness, not really super necessary. It's just nerdy. But I'm boosting the transients of this break a little bit. Let me solo. Let me fully go crazy with this so you can hear what this can do. I forgot where it was. Seems that undo doesn't work. OEK sound, please fix the undo. So I'm boosting the transients of this break a little bit. So like I said, I wanted to modernize the Amen a little bit and just modernize this song. So I'm kind of making the Amen a little chunkier, a little punchier, kind of bright. So, but also it works with the bass, like I said before, like I still have room for sub bass. Like it's not the Amen isn't super heavy. Because if you take a look at the sub bass, it takes a lot of room down here, and I didn't want to do that like super low break beat because that would clash. So obviously you don't want anything to clash, but my point is I wanted to make this sort of old jungly in a way that the drum break isn't heavy hitting in the lows, but I still have that enables me to have like a lot of room for the sub. That's jungle for you. Funny thing, I'm using a Pigments default sound. I was demoing Pigments back then and I still haven't bought it. It's literally the default sound, I think. So I just ended up buying some other synth because I was looking for like the most perfect synth for my use. Pigments, I bet, is great, and maybe I'll still buy it, but it's funny or not, it's literally playing like the default sound here. It's just so fitting. It's kind of super nice. So let me give you a tip about this relating to the speech samples. Let's take a look. About some of the speech samples, if you know my music, you know that I often use vocals and speech in my music. There's just something about it. Not every single song, but most songs that I've done always have some speech sample. I don't know why, I cannot explain it, so I cannot do it. But I wanted to try and find something for the song that says stars.
Some of those stars.
So.
Some of those stars.
And I have the other vocal bit here. It says stars somewhere, I forgot. Let me see. Yeah, I forgot. I'm just the guy who made the songs.
Some of those stars.
Anyways, there's some other stuff, but that's almost beside the point. So I wanted to find something that says stars. So I was using this playphrase.me. I know I sound like a salesman, and this is now looking like an ad. It's not. I'm paying for this. You have to have an active Patreon subscription to be able to browse this, but it's called playphrase.me. So when you're logged in, I think you get a few free searches if you're not paying for it. But the thing is, you can enter a search string. So let me do stars. And
you can show you where the stars live.
See?
Mademoiselle, stars in your eyes become you.
Father.
These are the next to look at this.
So it's really interesting because it's like it has these phrases from movies. It's a huge database. And what it's doing now, it's browsing through these phrases that has the word stars in it. So I can just like...
Stars.
They treat us like Hollywood.
Primo tail fixed up to look.
Can you see the stars?
A mover, a shaker. I'm shooting for the stars.
I could even do like a search for coffee.
I made some coffee for you.
This is the best drip coffee I think.
I couldn't find your coffee, but I hope you like it.
There's my number. So maybe we can go out for coffee sometime.
So you get the point. So that's where I get the samples. I've never done this before that much. I've done it this for like 2 other songs, I think. But I think it worked out really well because I got something that says stars. So this playphrase.me, it's great for this. But you gotta have I think it has like a low monthly fee through Patreon. I'm still supporting it because I think it's honestly a great great thing to do. It's a little different. I'm not so into the AI, but that's just great. So anyways, let's push on. I forgot where I was. I was probably here. Okay, yeah, so we're kind of building towards the climax, sorry. So what I'm doing here is I'm playing some of the higher pitch synth parts. I may have some processing happening here, but I'm kind of building this vibe to this breakdown where the sort of musical climax happens. I'm using crystallizer. I forgot for which. It's great for like a pitching things up and creating like additional harmonics. So let's see where it's happening. Yeah, I'm the guy who made the song. I should remember this. Let's see. So we're entering this sort of musical climax here, and whoops. Sorry about long tails and delays. That's a bit of a first world producer problem when you're doing a video and you have sounds with long release times and delays. Like you play like 2 seconds and it's like, dee! So also sorry for my computer glitching. I should probably, my computer needs a break. I need a break too. It's been an intense year. I won't lie. But anyway, so I'm building to this musical climax, and let's see what I'm using here. I created this. I won't give you a tutorial on Kaivo by Madrona Labs right now, but I created this sort of guitar type vibe. Because I think it worked as like an underlying layer there. Hey, plugins crashed. This is going great. So reload crashed plugins. Big up for Bitwig for creating a soundbox, because if that plugin had crashed, some other DAWs like Ableton Live would have crashed. So kind of saved my ass there. But anyways, I'm just, without being super specific, as you can perceive, I'm building from a fairly mellow vibe. Just a word about song structure, So it starts really mellow, and the energy kind of picks up, and I'm starting to play those like higher notes. And it builds to this moment where it's like, oh yeah, it's sort of going all out in an old school style. Like, I'm not using any crazy rave sounds, but like more sounds come in, like higher pitched synth sounds. So in terms of arrangement, it starts kind of mellow, kind of chilled and nice, and the intensity kind of builds up. And then we're entering this breakdown, and where the energy of the musical elements is kind of maxed out. And then after that, it just kind of mellows out. So I've often said that my favorite parts in a drum and bass song, it's often the moment where all the musical parts go away. And I realized that a long time ago. It's hard to explain, but when you have a song that kind of reaches a really busy part, somehow the part after that, to me, is often the best. Like, it's when it's only the drums and the bass. But a lot of times you kind of have to earn that part to be good. Because if I started the song like this, I mean, yeah, it sounds pretty nice, but you might be like, okay, I've heard that before. So the point of this section is to be a bit of a contrast. I mean, contrast is a big thing in music, in songs. That's one of the things that I think speaks to people and helps people to sort of remember something about the music. So I'm hoping that this part, like going into this musical climax and then kind of allowing you to breathe, is one of those things that you might pick up from the song. A few words about the overall thickness and vibe of the song. I actually have the final file of my master. I mastered this myself. So let's see. Loudness wise, for example. Sorry for the glitzes. It's my iMac is the M1 model. It should be powerful enough, but it has these days. But anyways, about the loudness. So it's around -6.5. And in the melodic parts, it's close to -6. Which is kind of nice and thick and loud. For this style, it's a fairly common loudness for the stuff that I do. Obviously, it could be louder, but this style doesn't usually want to go louder, this sort of jungle, and it's not necessary. But I would say -6, even like in the busy parts, it's a pretty good... It's a pretty good number, and it comes from all the elements being sort of thick in their thickest possible way. And then I'm pushing it to a limiter. Let's see, I'm probably only have one limiter here. I got like a master EQ. So I'm shaving off lows from the side signal. And it's just mostly just raising once again the 1K range. This especially is going to address the pads and the mids of the break. And then once again, more brightness and the sizzle. I really like how the song ends up sounding in terms of how sort of bright the drums are. You see, it's the bass is very nice and fluffy, but you still have these sort of modern highs. And as a mastering engineer, in my daily work, I really love kind of pulling out these highs for any song and try to optimize the highs, because it does matter a lot in terms of energy. Even let me disable these high pushes. So you hear how much it does. It's like immediately much older sounding when I disable these. I'm running the master EQ in 0 latency mode. If we want to be precise, it should be natural phase or linear phase to not introduce any phase distortion, but I don't know, it sounds good to me here, and it works. Linear phase is often your best option though. So I'm running 2 limiters here, sharing the heavy lifting between 2 limiters as I often do in also my mastering work. Let's see these guys. So the first limiter is doing like 4 dB of reduction if you look here. And the second one is shaving the rest off. By the way, I often use this IRC3, which I've found a little cleaner and punchier in Ozone Maximizer, which is my go-to limiter. But hey, it worked, and I've engaged True Peak, so nothing will be actually going over 0. When you have True Peak enabled, it's enough to have like minus 0.1. There should be nothing going over 0 technically. So just a word about how I like things to sound like fairly full, fairly loud, fairly chunky. It seems to be my style as a producer and as an engineer. I mix and master a lot of music daily. I get a lot of house stuff, for example, that wants to be around -6-ish and kind of bassy and loud and clean. I mix a lot of stuff that I also master. So this sort of drum bass background has made me an engineer in a way. Like 10 years ago, I started offering my services and things just really snowballed. And these days I work with many artists. My biggest client being John Summit. So most of his discography has been treated by myself for the past 7 years. So I just like to keep things kind of clean and chunky. Let's see where the song goes. Oh, and one more thing about, I like for songs to have like sections where you just let it roll out. Obviously, you gotta listen to the song. I know my speech is more annoying than the song, but go and get the song and play it. But like, that's the delay on the, like when I click on the section where there's a delay feedback, which I'm doing on some tracks, it just goes crazy. But like, to me, it's always important that there's a sense of growth in the song, but also then you have come to a moment where there's a lot of the emotion just goes away, and then you let it roll out. And then I'm starting to build it again. I enter a bit, there's, in a way, there's like 3 sections in the song, or 4, like the intro, mellow, then it starts building with the amen, and then it kind of just reaches this climax, and then it enters this section that doesn't really have any like musical elements. And it's often these sections that I enjoy the most. And then I start building a little more. Oh, this star sample was from Loop Cloud, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's the one that I was also looking for before, like, because I wanted to have 2 samples that say stars. I'm also sneakily switching to another bass that's sort of similar. You see the switch here, so using Serum first and then going Zebra Computer Music Edition. So let's listen. So it starts hitting a little harder in a way, like it has a little more punch. I love the synth for this sort of simple but punchy, sine wavy, punchy basses. I really like how the bass cuts through, because it has this sort of punchiness in it, in its envelope. Forgot where, now it's been a while. But it's just a kind of simple sine wave, but a little bit of character coming from the wavetable. But it's kind of, like I said, I wanted to keep it fairly old, but still kind of powerful. So it starts punching a bit more. There's a bit of a sense of change in the bass in the song. I do it sometimes, like I introduce a second bass that's very similar but a little different to introduce a sense of change. I'm very critical about my music, and I don't want it to be too repetitive. I'm always asking myself, like, where would the listener get bored? Do a bit of change. Not everything has to change all the time, but when you do all these little changes, the music never gets boring. And you'll probably notice this in the song. Like if you play the song from start to finish, you will see that there's always something happening. So the last section, it starts playing the same pad that I had earlier on. Earlier on, it was just like this note. So I'm kind of reusing it, and it starts doing this simple melody. So another breakdown. And also it's the same pad that I was using earlier, but it's playing a melody now. So the intro was more like a melancholic in a way, and this section where I'm sort of reusing the synths, this was like a bit of a eureka moment for me, because I was stuck in the song like here, and a lot of times I don't want to proceed with a song and just loop it to death and just get bored with it until I know what I want to do. And one day it just kind of hit me when I wasn't even working on it. A lot of times I just write down ideas and just go for a walk and whatever. I know this is a bit of a cliche, but you think about it and the idea just comes to you. And I was like, why don't I do like one more section where I reuse the same sounds but make it a little more uplifting? And that's what I'm doing here. So a tip, if you don't know where to go, maybe try using the elements you have already used in the song and do something different with them. Because for the listener, the sense of familiarity will be there, but it'll be a change. And you can just whip up a new section. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using the same breaks that I did earlier, but I probably didn't use the amen and the intro break at the same time earlier. So once more they're happening, but they're now playing at the same time. So once again, sort of reusing the same elements, but yeah, the delay was just killing me. So there's been a few moments in the song. I gotta find it just to show you guys. There's, I don't know, let me see. So for this mindless browsing, I just forgot. But I like doing this, like. Anyways, enough to say, I think it's one of the pads or one of the vocals, but that's also a tip or like a trick of mine that I do in song sections. Like when I do a transition to a section, I just take one sound and throw it into a delay and maybe just mess with the feedback time I probably had yeah, I have Valhalla delay here. So what I do is sometimes when I want to do a transition, when I want to leave behind some of the musical elements once again and move on, to make it not too abrupt, I sometimes just take one element, maybe a pad or whatever, and throw it to feedback or delay, and just crank the feedback up a little bit and let it kind of just roll out where it almost gets too much, and then you automate it back down. So that makes sure that the transition isn't too abrupt, but it's a very easy way to sort of leave all the musical parts behind, but still kind of just kind of drag one of them with you. Yeah, just playing with the breaks till the end, and then I'm done. One thing here, I'm throwing this break. I'm throwing something into a delay. Why am I not hearing it? Oh yeah, it's this. Normally, I don't use this sort of reverb a lot with my drums, but for this, like the end of this 16 bars, I am doing it. Where is it? Here. So you see this, some of these parts just go into this reverb. Like it's really dry here, and then it gets really loud. And so why am I doing this? You might ask, like, what's the big trick? Well, in my music, it's important to me to do a bit of ear candy and sense of change. A lot of times I enjoy doing this at the very end, like when I'm mostly done and I'm kind of critically playing one section. I'm asking myself, is it too repetitive? I mean, I've been hearing this music for a long time, and it's hard to impress myself even. And the one thing that I sort of dislike is when the song sounds kind of lazy and just copy paste. So you want to do these little tricks at the end of 16 bars to kind of just make it a little more interesting. So that's why. Throwing a drum loop or your drums into a reverb for like a bar or two may help. Then you just disable the reverb so there's no tail. So that's pretty much it. So hope you liked it. I hope it wasn't too messy. Just want to say thanks to everybody who's supporting me on Patreon. It really means a lot. It's there that I mostly do content. I don't do YouTube very often, because it doesn't pay me anything, but Patreon does. So I'm doing monthly content on Patreon, a lot of drum break stuff and jungle mixing and that sort of stuff. Hey, if you liked it, leave a comment. If you hated it, leave very many angry comments, because that's going to help. That's it. Thank you.